Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is June 6th, and today we're taking a look at the system out over the Pacific Ocean and Gulf of Alaska. It's going to actually bring some ridging and bring a decent day today and tomorrow across Pacific Northwest before we bring a weak frontal system through the area on Wednesday. But if you take a look back here across Pacific Ocean, look what we got out here. This is going to be another atmospheric river that looks like it's going to impact the Pacific Northwest, and this one looks significantly stronger than the couple that we've had in the last few weeks across the region here. We're going to look at that in some detail coming up here. But as you can see, we're looking at the mid-level water vapor here. You can see the intertropical convergence zone doing what it does, just kind of meandering north of the equator in the summer season here. Now, taking a look, we do have thunderstorm threat for portions of Pendleton, Spokane, eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, Idaho, Panhandle, and Montana. But we should be free of the thunderstorm activity, mostly for the Cascades and western Washington, Oregon, British Columbia. Just the higher terrain off to the east will have a thunderstorm chance as well. And you can see as we go on in through tomorrow, that threat even pushes further off into Montana, leaving most of the Pacific Northwest out of the thunderstorm threat. Pretty nice day coming up on Tuesday. Taking a look around the rest of the country, some heat advisories across portions of Texas. Still some red flag warnings going on for California, Arizona here coming up, but pretty quiet generally around the rest of the country. There is some severe weather expected across central portions of the U.S., so heads up if you're traveling out that way. Spokane, National Weather Service, showing those thunderstorms. This has been updated a little bit. They expanded this a little bit further west to include Spokane and Pendleton. But another thing to point out here, too, is there's a lot of precipitation out there. Rivers running high, fast, and cold. So heads up for that if you're thinking about going out on those rivers out there, eastern Washington, Idaho, and on in through eastern Oregon, including Montana, though. High flows, cold water. So checking things out here is the NAM 3KM. Let's see just how warm we're supposed to get today. You can see not a bad day coming up for Willamette Valley, Puget Sound. Still below average, but not a bad day overall. Warming up into the 70s for the Columbia Basin there in eastern Washington, eastern Oregon. Just not too bad of a day. Some residual showers around. And again, there is that thunderstorm threat for mainly portions of eastern Washington, Oregon. Now, as we go through on the day Tuesday, notice how we warm up quite a bit. Check out SeaTac up to the mid 70s possibly. That would be quite a nice day. That would bring us above average here, one of our rare above average days across the region here. You can see eastern Washington, Oregon warming up nicely as this thunderstorm threat should push off further to the east and leave us with a decent day across much of the region. Now, checking this out, the European kind of highlights that thunderstorm threat, eastern Washington, Oregon, and then you'll see as we go on in through Tuesday, that's much farther east on into Montana. So now we're going to put a little bit of effort into the extended here. I want to show you guys what's coming here. This is quite interesting. We have a system moving through Wednesday. You can see this frontal system's kind of weakening as it makes landfall, but watch what's coming on the heels of this on the day Thursday. Look at this huge plume of moisture just rolling into the Pacific Northwest. And here we are Thursday afternoon with just a very potent atmospheric river bearing down on the Pacific Northwest here. Now we're going to look at this from a little bit further out, and you'll see this. Here comes Wednesday's system here. You'll notice it make landfall as a weakening frontal system. But look back here at this plume of subtropical moisture, a very impressive atmospheric river. Looks like it's going to impact us here in the Pacific Northwest. It's going to bring big precipitation totals across, especially the higher terrains and the kind of mountainous areas as well. And taking a look here, this goes out a bit further. Oh, this is the GFS going to go out a bit further here, but it's also showing that weakening frontal system Wednesday, and then this huge impressive plume of moisture rolls in during the day Thursday, and this will continue on in through Friday across the region. Now, what kind of atmospheric river is this going to be? Let's check this out. Integrated vapor transport. Here's the GFS. There goes Wednesday's weakening frontal system. Then look at this impressive plume of moisture. You can see some of this pink reaches the shorelines here in excess of 900 right here. So we're going to have to look at that and see what that means here on the chart in the next step here. But you can see a very impressive, this is like a straight up like a November or a December, January type atmospheric river event coming for the Pacific Northwest here. And you can see we're going to be above 750. It's going to last for just over 24 hours, looking like a Cat 3 strong atmospheric river event on its way. So the last two we had just barely classified as Category 1. So this is going to be much stronger than what we've seen previously. Now, if we take a look here, you can see the cross-section of an atmospheric river. They extend to generally about 10,000 feet high, so you can see they're pretty low lines. So when these slam into our coastlines, they generally get wrung out by the higher terrain, the Olympic Mountains, the Cascade Range, the higher terrain through British Columbia, the Rocky Mountains. These atmospheric rivers almost never make it into eastern Washington unless they line up just correctly and maybe pass through some of the terrain of the Cascades down there through the gorge of Oregon, Washington. But you can see, again, atmospheric rivers, they're low-lying features. Now check out some of the precipitation totals we are expected to get here. I'm going to put this at the 0Z yesterday afternoons. And here we go through Monday, just some residual showers, but then Tuesday, a nice day. You can see very little precip around the region, but then you can see Wednesday's weakening frontal system kind of move through the area, not bringing much in the way of precipitation. But now look, can you see the atmospheric river bearing down on the region here? Hard to miss here, folks. As you can see, it bringing some pretty good amounts through the Oregon Cascades, eastern Oregon, northeast. You can see even some of the higher terrain of British Columbia is getting hit with this atmospheric river that makes it over some of the higher terrain even a bit here. But you can see really the target is the Olympics, Vancouver Island, the higher terrain of BC, Washington Cascades, all the way down to the northwest Oregon coastline here, as some huge precipitation values are coming in here. Some of these are showing over 8 inches for some of the higher terrain. There could even be flooding concerns with an atmospheric river of this type across the region. So very unusual for June. We tend to get atmospheric rivers once in a while in June, but they're generally category 1. This is very unique, having one this strong move into the area during June. Now taking a look here, here's the European model here. And this is what's stirring this or steering this atmospheric river in our direction here. The strong trough with strong ridging. You can see this gradient. This is just pumping that subtropical moisture into the region here. That's the result of this powerful gradient set up across the Pacific Northwest here. This high pressure over Oregon and this deep Gulf of Alaska low here. Now checking out the GFS here, this is the 12Z run, and you can see there goes Wednesday's weak frontal system. And again, that Gulf of Alaska troughing with the strong high pressure here, that strong gradient pumping that subtropical moisture into the region. Good model agreement there. As we go through this weekend, you can see the trough just really settled over us here in the Pacific Northwest too. Just a very impressive active weather pattern setting up for the Pacific Northwest later this week on into the weekend. Let's see what the Canadian shows too. This has actually just started to run, so we'll show yesterday afternoons, but I have a feeling it's going to show very similar. You can see the ridging Tuesday for the nice day. And then that system moves through Wednesday, and then that Gulf of Alaska troughing and that strong high pressure over the interior west here, steering that atmospheric river into us. And it again shows that troughing then settling over the region here as we go on in through the weekend, on in through early next week. And that trough gets reinforced as we go on through next week. So a very active pattern coming up here. And once this trough settles over the top of us, we can start to reintroduce thunderstorm threat across the region here as well. Now taking a look at Seattle, Tacoma, the Europeans showing about 70 on Tuesday. I think we might get a little bit warmer than that. We'll have to see how this goes. We'll check this out again tomorrow morning, but we might get a little warmer than that. But check it out in the extended after that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and through the weekend. We're below average temperatures. Remember, we're starting to be up towards around 70 degrees as an average here for Seattle into June. Vancouver, you can see below average through the extended as well. A little bit of a warm day on Tuesday, maybe a decent day on Friday, just temperature wise, but this is going to be atmospheric river type moisture coming in here. So it's not going to be a nice day by sunshine standards anyway. So taking out Portland, a decent day Tuesday, then followed by some below average temperatures Thursday. This is when the atmospheric river starts to impinge on the region here, so this warm temperature is not going to be a great sunshine day there on Thursday, so don't get your hopes up for that. But then below average through the extended. And this is the 8 to 14 day. This came out yesterday. You can see precipitation scheduled to be above normal for much of Washington into the Idaho Panhandle. And check out that 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. This highlights that trough settling over the region starting on this weekend on into mid next week. So yeah, we're going to continue to do this on in through mid-June, at least across Pacific Northwest here. Now this came out today too. This shows a new La Nina update, and you can see that we've been in La Nina conditions since the summer of 2020. We're going on 2 years now. We've been dealing with moderate La Nina conditions here for the last several months, really, or right on the borderline of it. And this was updated May 12th, so we're going to have to wait for another week before they update the probability outlook here, still at 61%. That's just due to that May prediction. But this one came out, and it kind of shows us being right on the borderline of neutral or La Nina conditions, but generally still below average temperatures across the equatorial Pacific. And you can see, though, as we get into January, it starts to try to bring an uptick to it there. So we might try to start getting out of these La Nina conditions. But you can see here, as we go through July, August, September, October, November, December, January, you still have that horseshoe type feature where the water is warm to the south and the north across the Pacific. And then you see that cooler water across the central Pacific. I think that we just don't have a good beat on what's going to happen here as we go through the winter time yet. We'll probably get much more, well, we will get much more clear as we go on into the summer and especially on into fall. But still looks like a La Nina pattern through December probably. And then we're going to try to come out of it according to the models. But again, we'll watch that as it comes in. And you can kind of see the result of that here. This is 500 millibar general troughing position. You can see that trough exists. Here's the Pacific Northwest. Here is Alaska. Here's Asia and Japan over here and down to Mexico. And you can see the Hawaiian Islands just at the southern portion of this map here. But you can kind of see this anomalous ridging that sets up in these La Nina patterns out here over the Pacific. And it generally brings us troughing across the Pacific Northwest. And that's what's just been going on here very persistently. This one is April 5th to April 19th, April 20th to May 4th. And you can see May 5th to 19th, that strong trough was just over the Gulf of Alaska and northwest North America there. But now looking at, so we're looking at the system Wednesday, and this is going to be a weakening frontal system coming through the area. Not a lot of precipitation with that, but it's this one back here that we're watching. There's still time for this to change and just how strong it's going to be and where exactly it's going to set up. But good model agreement that there is going to be an atmospheric river and a fairly strong one, maybe even very strong Category 4 potential with this atmospheric river coming up here on in through the end of the week. So we'll watch this one closely. I think the models are going to tell us a lot by tomorrow morning on just how strong this atmospheric river will be. We'll check the GFS European and Canadian and kind of try to get some good confidence on just where this is going to hit. But it looks like a very wet period coming up here at the end of this week. So be prepared for that. But thunderstorm threat should be pushing off tomorrow, and then with a troughing behind this atmospheric river, we may start to introduce thunderstorm threats across the region again in the extended. We're going to remain below average and with above average precipitation, as you saw in that 8 to 14 day forecast. So if you guys haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Click like, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.